In this video I'm going to be talking about Makaton, or using signing and symbols. So this is part of my blog post on Makaton and signing, and in my written text for that blog post I'll have some facts on the difference between Makaton and BSL, whether it's universal or not, and just a few sort of facts and bits of information around Makaton and signing and BSL. But in this video, this is going to be a bit more personal. This is going to be how we use Makaton and signing in our family with Oriana, and just answer some of the questions about how you guys can as well, if that's something you're interested in. And what I'll do underneath is just write out what questions I'm answering at which time in the video, just so you can skip ahead if there's something specific that you've clicked into this video to watch for. So yeah, I'll get started. So one of the first questions was, how old was Oriana when we started teaching her Makaton? I would say she was only a few months old when we first started using Makaton, and we only used it with one sign to start with. So from only a few months old, every time we gave her milk, she had a mixture of breastfeed and high calorie formula. So every time we offered her the bottle with the high calorie formula, we'd show her the bottle and sign, and we use the baby, so Makaton is this for milk, but we use the baby sign milk, which our portage worker suggested to us, because she said this is a bit harder for a baby to do, whereas this, a baby can do something quite simple like this from a very early age. So that's what we went with. So every time we offered the bottle of milk, we would say, Oriana, milk, and I would show her the bottle and do the sign. We'd say, Oriana, milk, every single time. So she always learned that that word milk came with this sign. And then as her understanding got better, sometimes we'd be able to say, oh, Oriana, do you want your milk? Should we go and get your milk? And we'd be able to go and fetch the bottle. So she'd already begin to understand. She'd have heard the word and seen the sign, and then we'd be able to get the bottle. So we're using initially we were using every cue that there was to teach that word. We were giving her the visual cue of the bottle and the sign and saying the word verbally. And obviously over time we could just drop the visual cue and say the word milk and sign the word milk, and then we could go and get the bottle. And she was really young when then she started to sign back. She initially did it to imitate us. We'd say, oh, Oriana, should we get your milk? Should we get your milk? And then she might just do this almost as confirmation that that's what she wanted, or just to imitate us. And then we'd obviously give her a lot of praise and reinforce that by then bringing her the milk. So that's how we first introduced signing to Oriana. I'd say somewhere between 6 months to a year is when she was doing the sign back to us, because gradually we introduced more signs. So for instance, when she was less than 6 months and she was only on milk, we did just the milk sign. But then as she weaned, we'd say things like, oh, should we eat? Should we go and eat now? So she learned the difference between the milk and the eating. So she probably, by the age of 1, we probably signed about maybe 4 or 5 words to her, things that were important to her day-to-day routine, like milk, or should we go in the car? So she knew that we were going to her activities or something. So that's how we started introducing sign. Really simple, just one thing at a time, and just things that were really regularly used in our vocabulary with her, describing her day and her sort of activities. That's how we introduced signing to her. Another question we had was, how did we learn Makaton? It was a mixture of a few things, to be honest. Stefan actually got the opportunity to go on a signs and symbols course. It wasn't a Makaton course. If you've read my written text around sort of Makaton, BSL signing, you'll know that Makaton is trademarked. So this course wasn't a Makaton course. It was called Signs and Symbols, which is another, it's kind of, the signs are very similar to Makaton. Some of them cross over, some of them are slightly different. So obviously I've spoken to you about milk and then the Makaton milk. I personally, I went to a group specifically for children with Down syndrome every Monday, where they worked on communication, and they did a lot of signing there. So we'd sign, and these are all children. When we first started, Oriana was literally 3 months old when I first started taking her to this group. But we'd sing nursery rhymes, so the wheels on the bus, row, row, row your boat, just like you would to any other child, and you'd sing your nursery rhymes, but we would sign them too. And slowly, we sung clearly so they could see our face and our mouth, and we'd do clear signs. So we'd say the wheels on the bus, and it was like that sort of pace, like really slow and enunciated. They would teach us basic signs like, I don't know, like, should we sit down, everybody sit down and things. So I picked bits up just from that group. And also also television, to be honest. Mr. Tumble's a great resource. He's got on YouTube, you can do like nursery rhymes, and you can, it's great for children because they love songs, they love music, and it's almost like actions to the song, so they're learning signing whilst they're trying to hear words, and they're connecting the two. So I definitely recommend Mr. Tumble's videos on YouTube, or watching Something Special, which is Mr. Tumble's show on CBeebies. That's great for learning Makaton if you sit and watch that with your child. There's also Singing Hands, who they similar to the nursery rhymes I've just talked about. They do nursery rhymes with signing alongside. There is another programme, it's quite old now, but this is how I initially learned Makaton. We had a video of Dave Benson Phillips doing Makaton. I think it was called, like, again, that might have been called something like nursery rhymes, and you can still see that on YouTube. It's really grainy, but it's such, like, Oriana loves it, so it's something that I loved watching as a child, and now she loves it. And Dave Benson Phillips goes to this farm and he talks to you about all the animals. He'll say, what about that cow, look at that pig. He's singing Old MacDonald and going through every animal, so you can see all, like, about the sheep. He does all of these signs. So if you want to learn about your animals, being on the farm, he goes to a school, so you learn a few school words, greetings like good morning, hello, those sort of things. You can also follow Instagram accounts as well. There's one, a girl called Isabella Sign. She set up an account, and the way she used to do it was she did one sign every day. So she'd show you just things like, you know, the sign for chocolate or something like that. So you'd get one sign a day, but she'll also, now I think she does songs, so popular songs like, you know, say like Harry Styles or something. She'll sign things like that. So I hope that answers your question on how we learnt Makaton. But to be honest, because we use Makaton every day, when we learn a word, it quite quickly cements in our mind. Just repeating the nursery rhymes, singing the nursery rhymes over and over with the signs. If you're using, they should just be everyday words. So yeah, eat, do you want breakfast? Should we have dinner? Do you want a drink? Should we go in the car? Where's daddy? Really simple things that you're just going to use every day with them. So the reason we started using Makaton, we probably would have used Makaton, I imagine, anyway, even if Oriana didn't have Down syndrome. I'd already heard what a great tool it was for teaching children to communicate. So it's probably something we would have considered regardless, but because we had this extra support from quite a young age, like I said, from 3 months old, taking Oriana to this group where they signed, it was just something we picked up and used as they modelled it to us, we did it with her. I would say it was really beneficial for us. Oriana still uses signing a lot now. So if I just talk you through how she's been using it. Initially, like I said, when we taught her signing, it was just a few key words. We'd say milk, we'd say, do you want a drink? Should we have dinner? Do you want to eat? It was just like a very few words. And she didn't necessarily sign them back to us, but we'd just say them with the word, because that's so important with Makaton. You always speak when you sign. The whole point is you're using signing to help them learn to speak and understand spoken language. Then gradually she would, you know, do just the flap of the hand or something like this, and you'd have to be so quick, you know, she'd do that and you'd think, did she just stretch or move her hand, or was she signing for milk? So it was a bit of a, you know, you might have to, did you want milk? But we'd always just try and reinforce it positively. So if we thought she'd done a sign, we would then give her the milk to kind of encourage her that by doing this, you know, it helps you get what you want. So yeah, milk was her first sign. Then afterwards, eat was the next one that she could do, eat. And again, it didn't start off like this. So we would say to her, do you want to eat? And she'd just go like this. So that's how she started off, with just a very few simple signs. And they were a bit clumsy. They weren't the exact same as what we were doing to her. But over time, as a typical child's speech sort of improved, the sign in the word gets clearer and more people outside of your circle can understand. Obviously, over time as well, her vocabulary increased as we started to include more signs and as we were doing more with our day and more with her routine. And now we're at the point where she's probably dropping a lot of her signs because she's getting so confident with her speech. So there are instances where the word, she obviously thinks she said it really clearly and we're not really sure what she said. So we'll have to ask her again with a sign like, did you say you wanted a drink? And she'll say, yeah, drink or whatever. So yeah, whilst she's dropping a lot of the signs, we still have to use it sometimes to just confirm what she meant. But how I would say is really useful is it's just really encouraged communication where otherwise she might have got frustrated. So for instance, one sign, say we're giving her some chocolate buttons, so we'll give her however many and then I'll say, right, this is your last one now, this is your last one. So then she'll do something at the moment. So say I'm trying to do like some phonics with her or something, and she'll go swa swa, which if I didn't know what her sign meant, I wouldn't know what swa means. And she just goes to me swa, but she'll do it with this. Well, the thing is, so I say last one, but she just does this and goes swa. But that's enough for me to hear. She's trying to say last one, is she's trying to do this sign. So every time she does those two together, I know she's saying like, I've had enough, this is my last one now. And that's great because it means that she feels she's communicating, because we're doing phonics and she said, this is my last one. So I say, okay, last one, and I'll be confirmed back to the last one, we'll do the last one, and then I'll give her lots of praise for what she's done. So it really helps, because it almost reinforces what language is meant to do, because every time she tries to use her words and her signs together and gets a positive result, gets what she wanted out of the situation, it just helps confirm the importance of what she needs to be doing with language. Because otherwise, you know, if she's just getting frustrated, she doesn't feel like she's speaking and no one's really understanding her, it's not necessarily going to really be very encouraging for her to keep moving forward with her speech. So that's how it's been working for our family. It's just, we're still getting towards speech more and more with each week. Her speech is improving all the time, and as her speech improves, she's learning herself that she just drops the sign. It's easier for her to just say the word, because she's got the confidence that people can understand her. In situations where we don't understand, we can just confirm with a sign and say, oh, did you want to eat? So yeah, it's been great for us. I would absolutely do it again with a typically developing child, as well as a child with Down syndrome or any additional needs. It's been a really useful tool for us to prevent frustration and aid her communication, and just like positively reinforce all of her learning and communication that she's attempting to do. I'd also say as well, the aim isn't, you don't need them to sign perfectly. That's not what you're aiming for. It just needs to be a sign that you understanding is consistent. And Oriana's had her own version. So for instance, this is cake, but she does this. She'll always say, oh, cake, oh, cake. Whereas we'll say to her, oh, do you want cake? So we still sign it correctly to her, because that's how she's seen it and modelled it herself. So we say, do you want cake, Oriana? And she'll say, yes, cake, and do her own version. Sometimes it's really similar. Other times, like say biscuit, we'll say, do you want a biscuit? And she does this in her hand instead, biscuit, like this. You're not necessarily aiming for them to be completely perfect at signing and to completely mirror you, so you don't get frustrated if it's not the exact same sign. Their gross motor and fine motor skills are still improving as their speech is improving. So just as long as it's a consistent sign that you know when you say, oh, do you want to eat? If they're saying eat, that's fine. It's still a sign, and it's a symbol that you guys can use to communicate with. So I would really encourage anyone with any child to sign, to be honest. And also I just think, if you've got children then going into preschool or school where other children use Makaton or signing, obviously it's just even more inclusive for those children. So I hope that's answered just your basic questions on how Makaton works within our family, and also maybe how you could start implementing it yourself with your toddler. If you've got any other questions, obviously just get in touch with me and I'll do what I can to answer them. Thank you for listening. Bye.